Okay, so this week there was the launch of the Intel Arc B580, $250 for a 12 gigabyte mainstream GPU that actually has pretty reasonable performance. People are calling it a disruptor, but it's actually just, the kind of
A
product that
ruptor.
should have been there years ago, to be honest, in what is a very moribund area of the GPU market. This question from question generated by Jensen GPT. The Arc B580 is looking mighty impressive for the price. Great overall performance, good VRAM amount, but I'm concerned about its viability in the current market. The B580's die size is 272 millimeters square. For comparison's sake, the 4070 Ti's die size is 294 millimeters square. Intel is selling a GPU with a die almost as big as a 4070 Ti, but with performance closer to a 4060 Ti, whereas actually closer to a 4060 in some scenarios, on a more expensive node for only $250. This means Intel is either making very little money on the B580 or possibly even losing money on every unit sold. If this is the case, then they likely aren't going to make many of them, meaning it won't actually push AMD and Nvidia to lower their prices. It also means Intel won't be gaining money to put towards R&D costs for future GPUs. Are my concerns unfounded here? I don't think they're unfounded. I think they're actually, the maths speak for themselves. You've got this massive die on a $250 GPU. It's TSMC 5 nanometer, which is not inexpensive, let's say. And, you are looking at a build cost for a GPU, whereas, it's up there with like 4070, which is, twice the price, really. From Nvidia. So I do think that they are probably selling at cost and possibly losing money per unit sold, which is quite a stark thing to say. However, what more could Intel have done if the actual performance of the product is more like a 4060 to a 4060 Ti than a 4070? You can't charge 4070 prices if your performance isn't there. So instead, they've done everything they could to make a splash, to generate some kind of shift away from Nvidia by offering value across the board that's better. I don't think they could have done anything better, and I wouldn't be too worried about the amount of money that Intel is or maybe isn't losing per unit, because we don't even know how many they're making at this point. Maybe it's not that many, but certainly the goodwill generated for the brand is priceless. I won't say there's hype, but there's generally positive feelings about Intel GPUs now in the wake of the B580 and the B570. As I said in the B580 review, based on the haircut to specs there, I reckon it's going to be really, really good. I reckon it's going to be a fantastic product for $220, where at the moment there isn't really any kind of product for $220 that's really great. You've got like the Radeon 6600, which is often sub 200, but it's a good chunk slower than all of these offerings. So I think it's all they could have done. I don't think if they're losing money, it's all factored into the plan, the long-term plan. And what they need to do is they need to build up the brand. They need to build up their credibility. They need to basically make people at least think twice before they just go out and buy an Nvidia card. And I think that's exactly what this does. Oliver, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Rich has said so far. The die size is concerning. That doesn't matter as much for cut price desktop cards that probably have some power headroom on a typical PC, but it would matter for anything higher end. It would matter for potentially portable designs that might go into laptops. But for Intel, they don't have an alternative here, I don't think, if they want to play the long game, as they seem reasonably committed to doing. I guess we'll see if there is a third or fourth ARC generation, but I imagine those are currently planned. They have to keep prices low to build up market share and mind share, and to give their driver team something to work with to hopefully get those drivers in a really, really good state. And then hope that subsequent chips are good enough to maintain competitive pricing without excessive costs. The designs do have to get more die efficient, though. I think that matters a lot for all kinds of designs, and for profitability and margins and getting the chips to a level where you can actually sell them and make a decent profit off of it. I think it does matter enormously. So it's a challenge for them, but ultimately for the consumer, you're still getting a card that doesn't have like ridiculous power consumption, $250 or $220 for performance that you're not going to get out of any other vendor. So it's still a good deal for consumers. I think that's what Intel is trying to do, present a good deal for consumers. And that's kind of what I think maybe matters with these products, at least in the short term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, John?
Oh, and not too much to add there, just that it's really cool to have an actual affordable GPU like this that's punching above its weight in terms of the price class, which I feel like we've been slowly but surely getting away from, right? You look at the last 10 years of GPUs, the prices are kind of out of control these days. There's great GPUs being made, but it costs a lot. This is obviously a more of a budget line sort of focused card, but it performs really darn well considering. And I feel like maybe this is their play to sort of tap into that market that just they want to have a PC that can play games decently, but don't want to spend the usual GPU prices. And by erasing problems like the low VRAM from the budget line, it really helps with sort of ensuring that it can actually play games, even if it's not at the best settings. You're not having those VRAM problems, which plague all those 8 GB GPUs. My goodness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, certainly the arrival of Indiana Jones has certainly put the cat amongst the pigeons there, because, you're having to, the compromises you need to make. Alex did a pretty good job in his video of highlighting that, the compromises are okay. They're not, game breaking by any stretch. There was a great deal of misunderstanding about what the texture cache actually is on an id Tech engine game, but at the same time, the concepts that you're having to reduce hair, you're having to reduce the shadow quality, and it's not down to the computational prowess of the GPU. It's the fact that it's just not got enough memory. That's an issue, and also the fact that Nvidia, the latest rumors are saying that 5060 is going to be an 8 GB card. That is problematic. And if we've got products like this coming out, which are basically saying, it's okay, we've got that taken care of, then I think that's great for competition. It might cause a rethink, which I think is certainly a long time coming, for sure.